A mother of 6 children, a sister, and a caring friend to others is dead tonight at just 32 years old. Police found Passion Pleasant's body off 295 in D.C. on Saturday. Our Tom Dempsey just spoke to the sister of the woman, and she shares with us this beautiful woman's legacy and more on the man they arrested.
Passion is just a nurturer. That's just her. She's always taking care.
Portia and Passion Pleasant shared a bond only sisters can share. The two grew up in D.C. together before Portia saw Passion become a mother to 6 children.
My sister, she lived for her children.
But this past Saturday brought heartbreak for her family when police found Passion's body along this stretch of 295 near the Whitney Young Memorial Bridge near Benning. Investigators say she died after being shot, while stab wounds were also found on her body.
So now they just discarding sisters along the road like trash? Whew. I know exactly where this is, and I've driven that road hundreds of times, hundreds, maybe thousands of times. Not good, man. Not good. This is not good. This is happening to sisters so much. And it's getting worse. Like the way that they're being discarded, the way they're being treated, it's getting worse. And these sisters, all they want to do is protest and march for Sunmen and tell everybody in the world to leave Sunmen alone and, nurture. Like she said, she's a nurturer. These women want to nurture Sunmen. Notice I said men. I don't know how they do with their children. That's a 50-50 thing. But grown men, they're very nurturing and very, they get out in the streets, front lines. You just saw Minneapolis when the dude pulled the gun on the cops and got shot, Amir Locke. And all the sisters was out in the street. It was 4 degrees out there, and they were in Minneapolis, and they were protesting. All these sisters want to do is, make the world a better place for Sunmen. Grown, you gotta be grown. You gotta be old and shit. But R.I.P., man.
Investigators say she died after being shot, while stab wounds were also found on her body.
I saw the news report via internet, not knowing that was my sister.
Police later arrested 30-year-old Greg Johnson in connection to the crime, describing the murder as domestic in nature. Speaking to WSA9 on Sunday, Portia says Greg and her sister dated for years, but what appeared to be a loving relationship during family gatherings allegedly became something much different.
From what I know in the beginning, he was a light to her life and to the kids. As time went on, I came to learn that he became very abusive.
Now, feeling the pain of losing her little sister, Portia hopes to carry on Passion's legacy by helping survivors of domestic violence.
It's not talked about like it should be, so I have to be an advocate for my sister.
Tom Dempsey, WUSA 9.
And it's devastating, and her sister shows such strength. And we are thinking of that family tonight. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports, on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men. Remember, there is a way out. And if you need help tonight, please call 800-799-7233. That domestic violence hotline is at the bottom of your screen. Let's take a moment to pause and breathe before we continue. That story was awfully heavy and heartbreaking. A woman lost her life this weekend. 6 children lost their mother, and their lives will never be the same. Sadly, we've reported on far too many of these deadly domestic violence cases. We know the statistics. Police and advocates tell us domestic violence cases have spiked since the pandemic. What we don't know? The cost. The lasting damage to these families and to these future generations left now to rebuild, all because of a coward who ripped their lives apart. We may never know what's happening behind closed doors or the pain someone is hiding, but I do believe that we all have a part to play in showing a bit of unusual kindness to our neighbors, because you never know, it could just save their lives.
Now, I commend this news lady right here for taking that time out to give an op-ed, even though it was full of cliches and, platitudes, and she didn't really go deep into it, but at least she addressed it. She didn't talk about specifically DV and the Sun community, but she went off script. And you only see them do this, go off script and tell their personal feelings, when a Sun man, career criminal, during a arrest, decided to fight with cops and maybe got punched on or even killed. That would be the only time. And I've done, 8,000 of these stories. Only time you ever see him go off script is when that happens to a Sun man. This was refreshing, seeing her go off script when someone who isn't a career criminal or a thug or a goon or gremlin, a demon or savage or, a real Sun word gets killed by cops or a glacier glider. So I got to give her props when it's due, man. Salute to this woman. So that was DC. Now let's go up 95, about 45 minutes up I-95 to Baltimore.
They shared the same last name, the same bloodline, and now the same headlines after police say that an East Baltimore man murdered his cousin by pushing her down a flight of stairs. WMER 2 News' Jeff Hager has more on this story for us tonight.
When police entered this house on North Curley Street for a report of an assault, they discovered 33-year-old Shanlette Lewis laying in a pool of blood inside her front door. She died from her injuries 2 days later, and now her cousin, 31-year-old Demetric Lewis, faces charges in her death. One of her family members, who did not wish to be identified, spoke to us of this double tragedy.
She was a good spirit. She was a good person. She ain't deserve it. She ain't deserve it. I mean, little argument. This is a big loss for the family. I mean, it's two losses, a death and a life that's thrown away. I mean, because he ain't think.
According to charging documents, Lewis got into an argument with his cousin, threatened her, and then pushed her down the stairs to the basement, where she hit her head on the concrete floor. Allegedly, he then carried her upstairs, grabbed her by the shirt, and dragged her through the kitchen and living room, leaving her by the front door. He then fled from the home before police arrived, and 2 days later, she died from her injuries.
Wow. Just treated like a rag doll, like a rolled up old rug, like a bag of old knickknacks and odds and ends, a bag of grass trimmings, just discarded. And when I started focusing on these sisters getting killed, maybe last year, beginning of last year, noticing this trend that was happening, started doing more and more videos about these things, I have noticed that the way the sisters are treated is almost a subhuman level of the treatment. So they're not, and listen, man, these brothers kill each other every day in the street. They're out here, and I get that. These brothers are killing each other every day in the street, record numbers. It's just, let's be frank, man. Everybody, we don't have to play games. We all grew up not hitting girls, man. We grew up like that. You don't even hit girls. Now, you get in a relationship later on in life, and you know how things get in relationships. Things can get hot and heavy and whatnot, you know, you snap out. But for the most part, most brothers I know were raised not to even hit girls during their formative years. That you were a coward for hitting girls. Now it's almost as if like that doesn't exist on any level. Now it's like a girl is the same as a boy. A woman is the same as a man. The same treatment applies. And it just wasn't always like that. I know a lot of people are prisoners to the moment and they can't see past 2020, can't remember. And I get that. I get that. You can't, it seems like 20 years ago, 2019 seems like 20 years ago. I get it. It was not always like this, though. Dudes wasn't just at the gas station hollering at girls, and if the girl turned them down, they shoot up the whole car full of girls, kill all of them. Like so many stories I've done recently. It wasn't like that. There's been a fast, precipitous change in the dynamic between son men and son women, which, don't get me wrong, before 2020, it was not good. It was still the worst in America. You had the highest rates of everything bad and the lowest rates of everything good, like marriage and all that stuff, and the highest rates of everything bad, like domestic violence. You had all, I mean, it's still, but it wasn't this bad.
According to charging documents, Lewis got into an argument with his cousin, threatened her, and then pushed her down the stairs to the basement, where she hit her head on the concrete floor. Allegedly, he then carried her upstairs, grabbed her by the shirt, and dragged her through the kitchen and living room, leaving her by the front door. He then fled from the home before police arrived, and 2 days later, she died from her injuries. Demetric Lewis is now being held on a first and second degree murder charge, but his family isn't convinced that he meant to kill his cousin.
It was just a heated argument that one thing led to another and it went left. But I'm quite sure it was accidental. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he loved her just like she loved him. But I mean, you know, it's tough love out here.
Tough love, man. It's tough love out here. Something's wrong with these people, man. Something's wrong with the son community. On every level. Every level, something's wrong. A lot's wrong. You just don't hear other groups of people talk like this. Death is taken so easily, and criminals are always seen as victims. The criminals are always the victims, and the victims are always, either marginalized. Their plight and their pain is always marginalized, or it's just glazed over. Like I always tell you guys, if you talk to any of these liberals, you tell them a kid got shot by the crossfire or something like that, first thing they say, oh, that's because of poverty. They need more jobs out here. And it's like, Dad, that's the first thing you're going to say? I just told you a kid got shot. First thing you're going to tell me is the thugs need jobs or mental health treatment or something like that. You're not even going to say RIP to the kid. And that's what liberals do. Sun liberals and pasty liberals.
It was just a heated argument that one thing led to another and it went left. But I'm quite sure it was accidental. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, he loved her just like she loved him. But I mean, you know, it's tough love out here.
At the time of his cousin's death, Lewis was still facing charges dating back 2 years ago in Baltimore County after he allegedly got into a fight with a coworker at the Edenwald retirement home and beat him severely, telling him during the assault, "I am going to try to kill you."
Okay. So, to the wokey woke crowd that's going to say, well, why did they have to bring that up? That ain't got nothing to do with this. They always trying to make a son man look bad. Well, listen, that's pertinent to this situation, man. I mean, it shows a pattern of behavior. Shows a psychosis, a pathology, a disregard for human life. Because if you're at work and you're fighting a coworker and you're at work, there's other employees, this is at a senior citizens home, so there's seniors around, there's other employees, supervisors, and you're literally going to try to kill the coworker there at the job on the, the front of everybody. That shows first of all, there's no fear of prison or jail. But it also shows that, just a numbness, a disregard, a disconnect where you're not understanding that, like, yo. And even with the cousin, he just killed the girl. He killed her in the house where the whole family was there. And it's like, it's too many brothers like that, man. That have that, they don't fear prison, they don't fear jail. Jail is just another extension of life. It's just another place to go. It's part of life. It's just part of it. They expect to go to prison. They're comfortable in prison. They know how to navigate that world. They know a lot of people in prison. Their needs are all taken care of in prison. Many of them are institutionalized from being in prison so much. They know the consequences of their actions lead to prison. There's no secret. It's not something just being jumping out at them like, gotcha. No, they know and they don't care. That's why I say there's no solutions. The only thing prison is good for is removing them from society and making other people safer. But as far as like changing them or rehabilitating them or them learning some lesson, that's very rarely going to happen.
Flatbush, on her way to work, is stabbed to death, and police sources say it was a random attack.
Another 3 hours and 30 minutes up I-95 to New York. Well, it's actually longer than that, because once you get to those bridges, that traffic by those bridges, God, may take you another 3 hours to get into the city. But Brook Lawn, woman stabbed at random on her way to work. It's getting crazy out here, man. For you sisters, man. You might want to stop pressing the issue on this criminal justice reform and this police reform. You might want to focus on something else. I don't know. You take a stab at it.
Woman in East Flatbush on her way to work is stabbed to death, and police sources say it was a random attack. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor spoke with her heartbroken sister, who says she wasn't even supposed to be at work that day.
I never see her anymore. He took her away.
Myrtle Clark Avis says her sister, 50-year-old Dorothy Clark Roser, likely never saw her attacker coming. Clark Roser was walking to her nearby job at Pathmark Sunday morning around 5:30 when she was stabbed in the back. A worker opening up the food store told Myrtle.
And so Dorothy was actually running until she got slow, and then she came up to them with a slow slouch speech and said, "Oh, somebody assaulted me. I'm hot, I'm cold," and she collapsed right there.
So 5:30 in the morning, she's headed to her job at Pathmark. She's opening up the store. She's part of the opening crew. 5:30 is still very dark on the East Coast. Very dark. Almost, it's nighttime still. So I just ran up and stabbed her. Kept it pushing. Don't get me wrong, things like this used to happen, but something's different, man. And as I said, it's the Sun Man, man. He just been emboldened, been entitled, been told he can do whatever he wants. So on this low end, the straggler, scallywag, street urchin, transient Sun Man, he also has been told he can do whatever he wants. He is also told that he's above the law. So his behavior, that guy you see walking down the street talking to himself and screaming at people, now he just starts stabbing people. Now he starts pushing people in front of trains. When in 2019, he'd probably, yell at people, scream at people, talk to himself. Expose himself to people and all types of stuff like that. But now, because he also feels the zeitgeist, he also feels the change in the country where if you're a Sun Man, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And especially when it's inclined when it comes to criminality.
Clark Roser was covering a 6 a.m. shift on what would have been a day off. Police believe it was random and arrested 34-year-old Anthony Wilson. Sources say he told police he spent the night drinking and wandering around and gave no reason for the murder. He also did not take anything from her.
Anthony Wilson. Tony. Ant-Man.
I want him to rot in prison because I'll never see my sister again.
Clark Roser, who has a 24-year-old son, moved here 3 years ago from Jamaica, loved to plan parties and cook. She was also married but estranged from her husband. Her sister says she was on her way to becoming a nurse.
Well, she's friendly, loving, and kind, and she had big dream, but all her dream has been shattered.
She's urging others not to walk alone when it's dark out, a reminder to take your safety seriously.
I don't know what I'm going to do. The house is empty without her.
Wilson is charged with murder and criminal possession of a weapon. The judge ordered he undergo a psych evaluation. He's due back in court in April. In East Flatbush, Brooklyn, Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.